Live. Well, hello. It's Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown timer. If I can get it to work, where is it? It's a countdown timer. Here it is, to help the various feeds catch up and settle down, folks. And yes, it's Leaders Live, baby. We're back after a couple of months break, so Sarah and I could move house, and we're all settled into our new place now, which we are delighted with. So that's great. And we're just waiting for the live feed to come up as we're chatting away to you from our end. So we're back, baby, which is brilliant. And good morning, John Atcher. It's fantastic. Good stuff. And so we're hanging out with transformational expert, the very lovely Anita Sicilia. I hope I've pronounced your name all right. Should have practiced that. Founder of Acorn Transformations, folks. And our theme is neurology behind developing a growth mindset. So there we are. So we love that. So there we are. And sorry that we've had a couple of months break, as I said, for moving house, but we are back and we are delighted. And I think that might deserve a round of applause and some fireworks. There we go. Brilliant. So we've got Mrs. Moderator herself as well. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
And a quick hello from Anita. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Brilliant. The sound's all coming through. That's great. And we've got people online, Sarah. So that's all good.
Amazing.
That's brilliant. So here's our marketing splash screen video thingy bob. Brilliant. So I don't know why my live screen isn't working, but there we are. I don't know why that is. Well, hello, good morning, everybody. And it's Andrew Jenkins here. And we are delighted that we are back, baby, for Leaders Live Showtime, folks. Hurrah and huzzah. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK. And we are live with Leaders Live, spreading the love, folks, spreading the love. And yabba dabba do. So I hope you enjoyed that groovy opener intro, gang. And this week we're delighted that we're being powered by Marketing CX, this week's sponsor. And a look out for who's sponsoring us each week. And oh, yes, please let us know if our audio is coming through too. We think it is. And if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you. And if you didn't know, Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, through community, and extraordinary conversations that inspire. And for you regulars, welcome back after the break for us to move house. We're so excited to be back. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins. I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live show that's built an awesome community of like-minded leaders just like you guys dialing in. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself, join in, interact with the show as we're going along, and with the comments and the chat, and ask questions too as we're going along. You know how it works. And for those of you that are new, then just follow on. You'll get it dead easy. And we have 3 simple rules: a safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. Yeah. And a really easy way that you can show support to us for this free show, and we put a lot of time and effort into making this work, folks, is that you can buy me a coffee using the buymeacoffee.com, and all proceeds go into the show. So they just happen to buy kit for us and things like that. So Sarah will put the link in the feed. It's already there. So the feed's working really well. And it looks something like this, if I can get it to test. So when you buy us a coffee, you get this. Come up here and your name is shone in lights, and there we are. It's all a bit of fun. As I said, proceeds go back into the show, folks. And so please smash those likes and thumbs up too as we're going along. We'd really appreciate that. That keeps us motivated. We're talking about motivation with Anita today. So if you put it all together, what have you got? Yep, you've got it. Bibbidi bibbidi bobbidi boo. And you'll be singing that song all day. And there we go. So let's bring in our guest this morning. So hello, Anita. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Let's get the side-by-side scene. That's the one I wanted. There we go. Brilliant. How you doing, Anita?
Not too bad, apart from a few technical issues this morning.
Yeah, so when you go live, we were discussing this earlier, that actually things go wrong. Like Anita had a blue screen, Sarah, Mrs. Moderator, had problems with dual screens and continuity and all these Mac problems that we get. I think she's still struggling with that now. So we're going to get onto your personal story in a minute, but tell us briefly, where are we heading today, Anita? What's our direction of travel?
Well, the topic is growth mindset. So what we want to do is, I want to explain a little bit about the...
Hey, someone's bought me 5 coffees. Thank you very much. That's a free coaching. That's a free half-hour coaching session, folks. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you for the coffee. Sorry, Anita, carry on.
That's okay. No, good news. So we're going to talk about growth mindset, but as you mentioned, we're going to go into the neurology behind it. And I think what's nice is we can look at growth mindset in terms of individuals, but also as a culture. Absolutely. And how leaders can use it in the workplace. So I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah, so it happens on 2 levels, right? On a personal level and as a group and a team. And I have to say, Anita, whenever I'm developing teams, the one thing that, I always say to them, look, to get to be a high-performing team, you do need to develop into a growth mindset, absolutely. But it comes at 2 levels. And one level is that you need to develop personally as a leader. And actually, you need to develop together as a team to be able to collaborate and to be able to handle conflict and all of those things. And part of that whole process is having a growth mindset. And we've got an audience question as well. Can you remember the question, or do you want me to say it, Anita?
I think you better say it.
Okay. In fact,
I've got nothing, no computer.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's get Mrs. Moderator to do that and introduce Mrs. Moderator at the same time. Sarah, how are you doing? Mrs. Moderator.
Oh, I'm trying to multitask here now. Put the question in and talk to you.
Yeah, and look at the screen at the same time.
Well, those eagle-eyed people will realise I'm actually not looking at the camera at all. The camera's side on because my screens are all playing up. Goodness only knows what's happening. So, but as we say, it's live. It's good
live,
to be back.
Baby. Good to be back. Yeah,
it's great to see people commenting and adding questions, no doubt, in a minute, or comments if I can actually see the screen. So yes, I'm side on this morning, so I hope you've got my best side.
So have you got the audience question for us, Sarah, to kick us off?
Oh, it's there. In a nutshell, what do you think growth mindset is?
Okay, there we go, folks. So in a nutshell, what do you think growth mindset is, folks? Answers in the comments, please. So kick us off with that. And there's a short delay in the feed, so we'll pick up interactions as we go along. And we've introduced Mrs. Moderator as well, so that's all good. Let's bring in Anita again. So Anita, kick us off. So tell us a bit about yourself, Anita. How did you get into developing this topic of developing a growth mindset? Take it away for us.
Right, well, like you, I've had a bit of a meandering career. I started off actually in accounts, went on to legal work, health and safety manager, would you believe? Wow. But then I had the opportunity to, I know. So I went to, after that, I went to university and I studied neuroscience and molecular biology.
Okay.
And after graduation, I worked in research, a bit of teaching, and then I went into lab management. Yeah. And after a couple of decades, I thought I needed a change, and circumstances dictated that I should. So I actually got into hypnosis for a little while.
Wow.
Yeah, and doing therapy. And through that, I got do you know the app Reverie by David Spiegel?
No, I don't. No. Wow.
It's fantastic. It's this app, and I joined the community as well. So David Spiegel, renowned psychiatrist, he's developed this app.
Right.
And it's good. You can get it up. We can probably maybe get a link online or follow me and I'll explain. But anyway, so I'd been using that and I joined his community. And of course, he is a colleague of Carol Dweck. So on his workshops, that would seep through. And, you pick up these things along the way, a bit like NLP and all this kind of stuff. So I was doing hypnosis and I have this lovely accidental accountability partner. And he once said to me, could you help me with my memory? And I thought, yeah, all right. Yeah, leave it with me. And I started doing research. Now, luckily, one of my favorite topics is learning and memory. So I went away, did some research, and came up with a presentation to sort of help me. And it helped him look after his brain, essentially.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was such a good presentation. I'm not saying that about myself, but it really had.
You were so pleased with it. Yeah.
It had such an impact, and I thought, well, several things really. One, everyone needs this, and two, I preferred it to the hypnosis. You know, when you think you've hit that moment where you think, I'm at home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I've arrived. Yeah, this feels comfortable.
Yeah. And of course, seeing this gentleman every week, I've seen the improvement. So I thought, no, I need to expand this. And one area I thought, you know, a lot of people have dreams, desires, and they don't fulfill them for one reason or another. So I expanded on this and wrote a course. And of course, one of the approaches is growth mindset.
Okay.
And I noticed that when I was writing it, that I was writing the neuroscience behind growth mindset. I mean, it includes other things there.
Okay.
So that's how I got into it.
So as you were developing these ideas, you supported it with research into the whole world of neuroscience to kind of give it some backbone, right, Anita?
Yeah, well, absolutely, because I think once we understand how things work, we adapt our behaviours naturally. Obviously, the course includes tools and everything. But yeah, I think it's understanding how things work. We can actually use the tools correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can then stand on the shoulders of other people that have gone there before you and add to that whole thing. Because nothing is brand new in the world. We add our spin on top of something, and we develop something further. So, you know, you take the ideas of somebody else and you develop them further, which is what I'm guessing is what you've done there, Anita.
And it's a good thing because everyone reacts to teaching and learning in a different way. So people will choose what they like.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So people will choose what they like and develop their own nuance of learning, which is what you're saying there. Okay, brilliant. So let's just give you a quick break for a moment. Let's go back to Mrs. Moderator and look at the questions. Okay, what do we think growth mindset is, Sarah? What are people saying?
Right. So John Attridge, growth mindset is to be the shepherd, not the sheep.
Oh, that's nice. Let's see if I can get that comment up. There it is.
Kieran, learn from your mistakes, other people's mistakes, your successes, and other people's successes.
Oh, let's just get that one. Learn from your mistakes. Yeah, other people's mistakes, your successes, and other people. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I like that. So, Anita's nodding like mad there, so that sounds like
Matthias,
hello, Matthias.
In a nutshell, growth mindset is a state of mind where you avoid to focus on your limitations and how you wish things to be. Instead, you focus on solutions and personal development. Learn to trust the process. If you make mistakes, you learn from them. These are part of your personal learning curve. With a growth mindset, you learn and grow as long as you live.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Brilliant. Anything else?
Yeah, Rebecca, the belief that through effort, learning and going outside of your comfort zone, you grow. Love Carol Dweck's book.
Right, yeah. Let's just explain Carol Dweck. So she's like, she was the first person that really coined this phrase. Is that right, Anita?
Yeah, absolutely. She developed it, yeah.
She developed it, and she's written a book all about growth mindset, and it's kind of become the de facto approach. And, you know, it's a good book to start with. And I think like Anita's done, and certainly like I've done with growth mindset, and I'm sure others here, you know, we can develop from that. So Carol's book wasn't the definitive book. It is just a starting point, right? And we all develop nuances from there. Super. Okay. Sarah.
Yeah, Graham Rose. A growth mindset is the idea that you can get better at something with practice. It means not giving up when things get tough. Yeah. It's about learning from mistakes and knowing that hard work can help you get better at anything you do.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, Graham. That's really good. And yeah, I think has John added something to the feed?
John just put something up. He said, show me a person who never makes a mistake. Show me a person I never want to work with. Show me a person who keeps making the same mistake. Show me a person I never want to work with.
John, you come out with some pearlers. So I think we need to have John back on the show again. So so yeah, John in the next couple of weeks or so. Let's bring you back on the show. Because John's got some pearls of wisdom that is just fantastic. Great, thank you, super. Okay, so Anita, you know, what's your take on growth mindset? Let's have it from you then. And if you just move your phone down a little bit so we can see your whole. That's it, fantastic. Yeah, we're on a phone today because poor old Anita's computer just decided to blow up today for no other reason than just because she's going live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, thankfully, I'm not sure if everyone needs me today. Everyone's got a really good
A
grip
really
of
good grip. Yeah, brilliant.
really good grip. Oh, hello.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to center you so that we get more of you. There we go. Right. Okay. Sorry.
Oh,
There you go.
no.
Lovely.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, you can boil it down to a single sentence is that those with the growth mindset believe that any talent and skill they have is a starting point. And that encompasses pretty much everything that everyone's said already, because it does give you this desire to learn, you
Yeah.
know. And once you have a desire to learn, you sort of let go of things like fear of failure. In fact, you plan for it. And as for mistakes, you already know they're going to happen. Of course they're going to happen. If you're trying something new, you've never done it before. So you sort of embrace this, and that takes away all the stresses of learning something new, because a lot of us can be put off by that. So yeah, and what's really nice, from a personal setting is once you develop that as a culture, and everyone else is doing it, the hierarchy goes. The fear of humiliation if you make a mistake or take a risk and it doesn't work goes.
Mm.
It's sort of creating the culture. So it's good to have a growth mindset, but you also want to be surrounded by that as well, because then you start collaborating.
Okay. So when you're with other people that have developed a
together.
growth mindset, you start to collaborate, and that's a key requisite, is it, Anita?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then,
No, I was just going to say that if you've got somebody with a growth mindset and they're in a fixed mindset culture, they will start to behave like a fixed mindset, because why should anyone take a risk if no one else is going to?
okay.
We default to protecting ourselves.
So let's just back up a bit. You just mentioned another word there. You contrasted growth mindset with another word, fixed mindset. Tell us about what's the difference between those two, just so we can get it. I mean, I guess most of us know that, but it's quite useful just to have that context again.
Yeah, no, I think it is, because a fixed mindset, and we all have met people who have that trait, and we all have it from time to time. It's where you believe that whatever skills you've got, that's it. You're done for life.
Okay.
You start labeling yourself, you judge others, and it's really depressing because you think you can't get on in life or improve. So yeah, that's not much fun. And resentment, so you resent other people's success, you don't celebrate them. And you find that, especially in like a fixed mindset company, you'll find hoarding of information, backstabbing, cheating, and this if somebody wants promotion, there's only one spot, so people will start competing with each other.
Got it.
Rather than collaborating. So that's the compare and contrast.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because I wonder what the audience might think of this as well. But I remember once one of my HR directors saying to me when I was working for 3i, and this was in the 90s, and she said, look, Andrew, once we develop as a fully functioning adult, that's it. Our brains don't grow any further. This whole thing about growth of our brains is completely wrong. We're stuck with who we are. Our intelligence is then fixed. Our viewpoint is then fixed. And I said to her, look, I'm really sorry, and I had no evidence for this at the time, but I just said, I just do not believe you. I don't believe that's true. I believe that all human beings can continue to develop and grow and change, and very much based on Jung's theorem, which was created in 1928. He was saying, look, there are no fixed growth, there are no fixed people, no broken people. We just can continue to develop all the way through our lives. Even in old age, we continue to develop if we want to. What say you, Anita?
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, that's a really extreme view, and if we take it to a further extreme.
Yeah.
If our brains were fixed or hardwired, we'd be as newborn babies. And let's just say it did stop at adulthood. Well, you could move to a new home. How would you remember where you lived? Do you know what I mean?
Because you're right. So you have to learn new things because things are in new places in a new home, exactly like we've just done. Yeah, and we can't find the towels or what we've done with the glasses.
But the brain is constantly receiving information and it's adapting accordingly.
Yeah. And if we have that mindset of relearning and unlearning, relearning, new learning, etc., then we can carry on going, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And there's going back to the science of that. Then let's just root that back into science. What's that rooted in? That whole the neurology piece of that, Anita.
Well, this is all to do with neuroplasticity, which I think I'd be surprised if your audience haven't heard this before.
Okay.
And what it means is it's not hardwired. So you can get, and can you see my hands?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you've got a nerve cell. This is communicating with this one.
Do you want a graphic up?
And when they fire,
yeah,
the synapses get stronger.
Is it that?
Oh
one
yeah, you
there,
can see
Anita?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gets stronger every time. An electrical signal will come down, release a load of chemicals, and then the postsynaptic neuron will receive that signal and it transduce it, and it will go on its merry way. You don't have to know all that technical term. Basically, you've got two synapses. When they fire, they strengthen. And when they don't fire, they start to loosen.
Okay.
So with repeat learning or repeat behavior, you strengthen those. But the good thing is that if you don't use them, they weaken. So that means we can learn good habits and get rid of the bad habits. So that's how we can sort of, develop our minds.
So,
and sort of,
okay, so what you're saying then is as we learn new things, then our brain literally in live, starts to rewire stuff. And the more we are going down a new habit, say, and learning a new habit, then actually our brain is wiring up new synapses. So the more we fire, the more we wire. How about that? The more we fire our synapses, the more we wire them, and we can reroute our learning. But if we don't use it, we lose it.
Yeah.
Is that right? Look at that for a phrase. So use it or lose it, and fire it to wire it, right?
In a nutshell, yes.
Yeah, lovely. Brilliant. Okay. Just take this one off. Lovely. Okay. In a nutshell, yeah. And that's so this whole thing about neuroplasticity is the principle of being able to reshape our brains to support our learning. And that's what's behind a growth mindset. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're not like the extreme view that I mentioned earlier with my example. We're not actually hardwired. So as adults, although we grow to a fully functioning adult, there is more to learn beyond that, right?
Yeah. This is the whole principle behind learning, is those synaptic, connectivities. Otherwise, we'd be fixed as adults. We wouldn't be able to do a new job. We wouldn't be able to learn anything new.
That's right.
So it does slow down, but I think your HR person has taken it to the extreme.
To the extreme. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I wanted to reinforce that. And, I just think it's such a beautiful picture, isn't it, that we can continue to develop and push ourselves and create new habits. And that's that's the whole point in growth mindset. And it's interesting that, I've got this philosophy that says, that as a child, we learn the first value of survival. And then in the playground, we learn the whole thing about social cues, who are the winners, who are the losers, the people to avoid, etc. And then in our adult life, our early adult life, we learn this thing called self-esteem and ego, which then creates the fully functioning adult. However, that then just creates a human being that can walk and chew gum at the same time and walk and talk and, stuff like that. But it's not over, folks. I mean, and this is where it becomes really interesting. The growth mindset then becomes the next level of learning. This is my theory that says, okay, so we become happier in ourselves because we're learning new habits. We become more comfortable in our own skin. So we cohere with ourselves. And once we do that, we can then grow to another level, which means we want to make a difference in the world. And then we get to that, we can go even further and say, well, as I grow older, I want to serve the world differently, which is what Leaders' Lives all about, is helping people, serving people in a different way. And so that growth mindset thing is a transformation piece between the fully functional adult and the adult that then wants to develop further. And that's the piece that you're talking about, which Acorn Transformations is all about, is helping people to make that leap between being just a fully functional adult that's fixed to then learning new things that take us to new levels. Is that right, Anita?
Yes, it's teaching people how to learn. Well, one is telling them that they can learn.
Yeah.
So any of those myths, but it is teaching them how. So the neurology behind it, and a lot of people fall down with motivation because you start a big project and you look at it and you think, and the project seems big and we seem to diminish, and that's really sad. So it's showing you all the tips and tricks about motivation as well.
Okay.
And how to look after yourself and think.
And nicely said, because that leads me on to the second question magically there, Anita. So we're talking about neurology, we're talking about growth mindset, and now you've just introduced this other term called motivation. What's from a growth mindset perspective, what's the science behind motivation? What's going on there? What's really motivating us here to develop that growth mindset?
Well, the thing is, it all boils down to a tiny little molecule called dopamine.
Dopamine. We love a bit of dopamine.
Yeah. And I think we all know that it's a feel-good molecule. But unlike, say, serotonin and oxytocin, they make us feel good in the here and now. It's what I like to call, it gives us the warm and fuzzies.
Okay, the warm and fuzzies. So that's serotonin and oxytocin. The warm and fuzzies, folks. Which is equally important for growth mindset, those warm and fuzzies, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. But what dopamine does is that it makes us look for rewards externally and in the future. So in other words, it makes us want more.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So that I don't know if that makes sense. So when we get a hit of dopamine, it'll associate with what we're doing at the time, and it will make us want to do more of it.
Okay. And so from applying that practically then, how do we apply that practically? Give us an example of that from a leadership point of view. How do we hook into that?
I'm actually going to refer to how growth mindset started with Carol Dweck, in 1998, because it will make sense. And
gosh, was it 1988 she produced that book? Was it? I hadn't appreciated that.
No, the studies behind it.
The studies behind it. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she did some studies on school children, and they were divided into two groups. So they were given certain problems. Yeah. And with one group, she said, well done, you're smart. You're really smart. And with the other group, they said, oh, well done, you've worked really hard on this. And then the two groups were given subsequent questions. And the ones who were told you're really smart, they did okay, but the ones who told you work really well, they did better. They exceeded. Now, the reason is they identified the word smart and it made them feel good. So they chose the questions that would continue to make them feel smart. Whereas the ones who said, well done, you worked really hard, they chose the questions that would make them get the same response. You work really hard. So they chose the more challenging questions.
How interesting.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So the dopamine thing then is applying this in another way then, just taking what you just said. If we think about a goal that we are progressing towards, a big goal, then if we start to break that down in little goals and we start to hit those little goals as we're proceeding towards the big goal, then we continue to get a dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and it makes us feel good that even though we haven't got the complete goal yet, we can see that we're on the way. Would that be a decent example of using dopamine practically?
It is, because it's nice to have little rewards rather than one big one, because you've got to be careful with dopamine. Too much, you'd either go mad, callous, or you'd have a crash afterwards. I think the idea is reward the process.
Yeah,
and
little
not the
steps
reward.
a long way. And when you reward, so thinking about how we lead people then is giving them rewards along the way. You did that really well. You're working really hard on this. I'm sure you'll crack it. Or when you're having, a review with someone, and they say, well, I haven't quite got my hands around this yet. And so a dopamine hit might be, yeah, okay, and that's fair enough. But actually, little by little, you will get there, and I will encourage you to get there. That would be a dopamine hit example of encouraging someone at work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we get dopamine hits all the time. We're always pumping out, but it's how we do it. Say, for example, you're a leader and we always have to take risks when we're trying something new. If you've got someone who's prepared to take that risk, reward them, because they're actually sticking their neck out for you.
Yeah.
If you don't, they're not going to do it again.
Yeah, indeed. And it's that whole thing about, so, it comes back to critique, doesn't it? If we're too critical, folks, and I've been saying this for years, actually, critical stuff makes people's self-esteem, really bulk. And, then if you're very critical with people, what I find is the effect of that, it may motivate some people because they think, right, I'm going to get better at this. But on the whole, most people feel affronted with severe critique, particularly. A critique that's well done and has a reward center, absolutely fine. But if you're critiquing negatively, remember that has a really bad effect on someone, because that produces another chemical, I'm guessing, Anita. I'm just thinking about the hormone cortisol. So is there a difference between that fear chemical, that hormone cortisol, and dopamine?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's a stress hormone.
Indeed.
With cortisol, we do get natural bursts in the morning, and we need that because we've fasted all night. So what it does is it increases our blood sugar level.
Or for me, like coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee's mine. Yeah. I look forward to that dopamine hit from coffee.
Yeah. But you don't want that hormone, cortisol, in your system all day long.
Not too much,
because it will mess up your circadian. Yeah, it will mess up your circadian rhythm. It will do all sorts of nasties.
Okay, and this is the difference now when it comes to feedback. And we're taught to feedback quite negatively. I'm guessing, a lot of us will have come from that environment. And I always think that that's like pouring vinegar on something. Far better to use honey rather than vinegar in my approach. And honey would be encouragement, reward, positive stroking. But also the encouragement to improve and to get better and to get your hands around something, but to be there as a support, not there as a, well, you told me you'd have this done by this week and you haven't, why not? Although that could be a suitable conversation, but it's better if it's turned round to be, more positive and to help that person. Would you say so?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because they might be having problems or they're stressed. For completely different reasons. It might not even be work related. Give them the space. If they're not afraid of you, they will come to you and say, I've got a problem. Welcome them in and say, well, how can we fix it?
Absolutely. And if you're more open, Anita, I'm wondering that, you don't know what's going on in someone's life. So if you're more open with them as the boss, say, as the leader, and there's a problem at home, then it may be that your staff member or your colleague would actually kind of say something and kind of go, well, actually, John, actually, Anita, I've had this problem at home and, I ran over the cat this morning. I've had an argument with my other half or whatever. And, if we've got that relationship, which is more open, again, a more growth mindset perspective, then people are more willing to open up. Would that be about right?
Absolutely. In fact, I was listening to a podcast with Carol Dweck, and what she does with her research group is that they have lab meetings, and she always starts up with, so let's go around the table. What were we struggling with this week? And all the new people say, do you know, I thought I was rubbish. And all these people I look up to, I realise they're human, so maybe I'm not so bad after all.
I love that. So there you go, folks. There's a thought you can do as a leader is, ask your team, so what's been a struggle this week for you? And it could go anywhere. It doesn't have to be just work related. What's been a struggle for you? So we can get to know what's going on for you as a person. And I'm guessing the more trust we have developed in that team, then the more that actually we feel more comfortable to share a little bit more about who we are, not just the work person that we're supposed to be, right? The kind of mask bit of us. Let's just give you a break for a minute. Just to let you know, Mrs. Moderator has just gone out to sort Fridge Guy out because Fridge Guy has just turned up. We've got a problem with our fridge and Fridge Guy's just turned up to mend the fridge. So it's me as Mrs. Moderator for now. We'll just see if she's quickly back. No, there's the empty space. So it's me to ask the question. So let's, to just give some feedback here. So, Mateus was talking about, here we go. Where are we? If life was over, if you were a loser in the playground as a kid, the world would be a miserable place. Absolutely. So we have to learn through our sort of survival and, you know, that development piece of working with people. And Matthias says, very fascinating what you say about fixed mindset, Anita, Cecilia. If you tell yourself in a fixed way that life is over, I cannot progress. Absolutely. You'll get nowhere. So many focus on their past results and also their past failures rather than how they can achieve things in the present and also in the future, is what you're saying, Anita. And the last few years, me and many of my peers have turned 30. Oh, the big 30. Oh, 30. Oh, that's way, way back from me. 30. And people think they're old at 30. Isn't that funny? And I suppose social media with glorified presentation of life, particularly, can't read this bit here, blame, and also media that present lists as under 30, make you turn critical towards yourself, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, age is a real thing, isn't it, for some people? And yet, you know, we keep developing. You know, and Colonel Saunders, he says here, founder of KFC, who focused on lifelong learning, found a massive success age 63. Yeah, absolutely. I'm 62 and I'm still learning and I'm not done yet, I can tell you. John says here, foods known to increase dopamine, folks. Here we go. Include chicken. There you go. Almonds, apples, avocados, bananas, beets. Don't touch beets. I don't like beets. They turn your wee different colour, don't they? Yeah. Chocolate, green leafy veg, green tea, lima beans, oatmeal, right? Oranges, peas, sesame, pumpkin seeds, tomatoes, turmeric. Turmeric's an interesting one. I've been cooking with turmeric recently. It gets everywhere, stains everything. You need a hazmat suit to use turmeric, but it's lovely stuff. Watermelon, wheat germ, and yeah, all of these foods help you to feel happy and relaxed and engaged. Wow. Graham asked you a question, actually. What practical steps would you suggest, Anita, for us to grow, nurture, and develop a growth mindset? What say you?
Oh, well, actually, the weird thing is knowing that your mind isn't fixed is the first step, because
Right.
that triggers. Oh wow, I can improve.
Yeah.
And it gives you that desire to learn.
Okay, so actually just having the concept of growth mindset gives you permission to then utilize it. Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like
else?
you were saying with your HR person, oh, your brain's fixed. I mean, luckily you didn't believe her, rightly so. You know, but once we know that we're not fixed, that's the whole beginning of it. You know, and another thing is it's really nice to look back at your past and say, oh, I never thought I'd do that, and yet I did it. You know.
Yeah. You know, and another thing, thinking about what Graham said there, I'm just going to join in this conversation a bit. I think sort of having a fixed mindset leads us to more about masking our vices, you know, the things we don't like about ourselves, the shadow side of ourselves. And so the fixed mindset would be, well, I need to hide that, but really it's present. And what a growth mindset, I think, does, if it's done well, you talked about this earlier, that actually part of being a growth mindset is you have to develop personally. And I think that personal journey is rather than hiding your vices, is to be aware of them and to develop beyond them. So, you know, if you've got a vice of being dishonest, say, you know, being aware of that, you can turn that round and become honest. And people can turn their lives around, right? That's the transformation piece. So where you take a vice which is holding you back and you convert it into a virtue by the decision and the choice that you make. And this is the thing about being human, I think, that we all have freedom of choice. We have a freedom to be controlled by a fixed mindset, or we have complete freedom to grow and develop. And I think one of the routes to that is becoming aware of the things that are holding us back, our shadow side, our vices, if you like, and growing through those, admitting those to ourselves, and then developing beyond it. What say you, Anita?
Well, exactly. I think once you realise you can learn and you can change, you already know that you're a work in progress. And I think to speed that process up, what you can do is look at past goals you've had and see how you achieve them. But not only that, how you grew as a person. Because it's not the result, it's the process we went through, plus who we became. So if you could do it in the past, you can do it in the future. And we can do that a lot with visualization as well. That's an excellent one.
Yeah,
because it's like rehearsing who we want to be.
Yeah, and we're going to come on to that in a minute, because that's a really important point. And I love that thing about, what you just said there is about looking at the process of how you got somewhere, not the result of what you've achieved, but how you got there and who you are becoming, who you became, and who you are still becoming. And that difference between letting go of our vices and developing our virtues is another part of that. And I love that thing about the whole reward piece as well, and rewarding yourself along the way, for those achievements and looking back. One of the things you can do here, folks, a practical thing, is to write a journal, boys and girls. Folks, write a journal. Journaling is really important. So that's just a thought for you. Any thoughts on that, Anita, before I move on to another question?
I think it is, because you see, I always think if we've got a goal that we want to do, we have to be able to measure our progress, because when we do progress, guess what? Dopamine. So we want to do more. So it's really good to be able to measure these things. So whether you want to do it as a plan or a journal, it's entirely up to you, because I think everyone has that. I don't like journals. That's just a personal thing. I know I'm an outlier.
Not necessarily. It's a choice, isn't it? We've got freedom to do what we want, right, Anita? Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rebecca, just on the John's point about the food that we to enhance our dopamine, we can take those foods. I love Rebecca's response, which is a great reason to eat chocolate. Absolutely, chocolate brownies, eat your heart out. Yeah, definitely with you on that one. Steve Whittle. Hi, Steve. Good morning to you.
Hot chocolate here.
Is that hot chocolate? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I can beat that, because I've got gin and tonic now. I'm only teasing, it's just water. Steve Whittle says, how can individuals address the cognitive dissonance? Oh, that's a technical term, that hinders them, particularly men, from admitting their insecurities. Is this the back to the vices thing again here?
It is, but I'm going to tackle it a slightly different way, because we've got to be careful who we talk to.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think when we try to solve a problem and it's in our head, it's always bigger than when we say it out loud. Do you know what it's like when you've got an idea and it comes out and it's either better or worse? Okay. So I think, when we talk to someone, we need to choose the right person. Someone we trust, someone who's going to be honest with us, who can read us and know when we're ready to hear something.
Okay. That critical friend, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that person that can push us and develop us and knows us well. Yeah,
because if you're on the edge and you've got somebody giving you the wrong advice, it can really throw you. And I know this through personal experience. I knew somebody who had anorexia nervosa. And someone said something to her at completely the wrong time, and she had another episode. So you've got to be really careful with what you say.
Yeah, because people can crash you as well as support you and develop you. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So, but choosing the right person, they can say that one thing, and just knowing that somebody else really cares about you.
Yeah, and I know where Steve's coming from on this, because Steve Whittle, a good shout out for you, Steve, is that he runs a charity called Tough to Talk, which is about preventing male suicide. And, one of the key things that Steve's pulling out here is that whole thing about talking. Don't just keep it to yourself. If you've got a problem, do something with it, and talk to someone who's close to you, and have people around you that can help you, particularly if you've got mental health issues as well, I'm guessing there, Steve. So thank you for that. And
but be fussy.
Sorry.
Be fussy about who you talk to, because when you said Steve Whittle, I knew who you were talking about. That's why I was trying to choose my words carefully as well, because the talk when Steve Whittle was on, it just broke my heart. It really did.
Yeah. So there you go, Steve. There's another shout out for you. We're all listening to you as well, Steve. And in response to Rebecca's eating chocolate, John just remembered to moderation is key here. Otherwise, too much of a good thing produces too much dopamine, right? I think you mentioned that earlier, which is why I brought that in. And I like John's last bit here. Bit like eating elephants, one chunk at a time. Yeah. I like that. That's a good guide to chocolate, that one chunk at a time. Brilliant. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of planning. You mentioned this whole rehearsal through visualization and, planning, moving ahead. Is growth mindset part of that, the practicalities to that? What's the link between growth mindset and having a planning mindset as well, Anita? Tell us about that.
Well, whenever we want to achieve anything, the foundation is planning.
Planning, right.
Yeah, it is. Think of it this way. Have you ever walked past a building site and you see all this dust and these screens and nothing seems to be happening for absolutely months, and then suddenly this skyscraper appears?
Yeah.
They're building the foundation, and that's what we need to do when we're planning. And there are lots of different ways, different tools we can use for planning. One, like you say, journaling, but it is writing it down, about being specific. What do we actually want? Because we want to know what we need to aim for. What tools, what skills do we need to learn? And if it's a team effort, who's going to do what, how we're going to collaborate as a team. And what actions are you going to take? Because what you want to do is when you say what actions you're taking, that starts firing up the neural networks to keep you going. So it's really, really important to sort of plan these things out, because also, again, you can measure what you're doing, adapt if something goes wrong, because everything goes wrong, like today with the computers going wrong.
Yeah, Mrs. Moderator and fridge guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So planning is really crucial, because also, especially if you're working from a team, because that's when you want to communicate and get people on board to work out how you're going to sort of go forward. And you start developing lines of communication, and you're all on the same page, really. Yeah. And this is when you start to talk about putting in slack, in case something like, the fridge goes wrong, or
have an shit fund, for example. Yeah, that sort of thing. Have some contingency. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So if you're planning, don't plan it to the wire. Give yourself some space, because to allow things to go wrong, because things do go wrong, particularly when you're going live, right? Things go wrong. So,
but also it adjusts our perception. I can't speak, because we're accepting that the world can be a weird place.
Yeah.
Do you know
absolutely.
what I mean?
There's a key. Yeah. Accepting when things go wrong. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good, that was a great summary about planning. And, John says this, planning is key to start with the end in mind and work backwards. Would you ever prepare for a holiday without knowing where you're going? Yeah, absolutely, John. Absolutely, spot on. And I think there's a biblical sort of term to this would be the wise man builds strong foundations, builds his house on strong foundations. The unwise man builds his house on sand, and that's all about planning ahead, isn't it? Plan for strong foundations. As you've mentioned, a building takes ages before it's resurrected out of the ground, because the first part takes a long time to get the foundations right. You also mentioned, just as a summary, what is the aim? As John said, begin with the end in mind, and then be specific. You said about breaking that goal down. Be specific. What exactly is it that we want to achieve it? Why do we want to achieve it? And kind of bring out the specifics of that. And how do we divvy it up? How do we divide it up? Particularly, do we do that as if we're doing it by ourselves? How do we divide it into chunks? Or how do we even more betterer is, how do I produce this goal with other people around me? So, an even more betterer thing, using a leader's live phrase, would be, how do we divvy this up as a team? Who's doing what? And then also, what actions do we need to do to keep it going? And the action planning is really important. And I guess another part of that is also to review that, because if you just trust that something's going to get done, but you don't review it, then things go, like a plane, if it takes off and it doesn't review where it is, could be, 100 miles west of its target or east of its target. So we need to continue to review to keep it back on course. Would that be true, Anita? About part of that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because again, we can't control what goes on outside, but what we can do is steer it. It's in a way, it's a bit more like being on a ship. You don't know what undercurrents. You might sort of keep.
Yeah, so there's undercurrents, there's the wind, there's all sorts of things, and just like life, things get in the way, and sometimes you have to replan. So the goal that you thought you were going for might change along the way as well. And I've just noticed Mrs. Moderator is back, so Fridge Guy has disappeared. Has Fridge Guy gone now then, Sarah?
Fridge Guy has gone.
Brilliant. Okay.
You could not make it up, could you?
And this is, and we planned for this, folks. We planned for Fridge Guy to come in today, like heck we did.
Oh dear. Never mind.
Oh, brilliant. We've just been going through some of the comments, and we're talking, we're at question 3, and we were talking about the importance of planning, and yeah, so welcome back, Mrs. Moderator. Nice to have you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem at all. That's the virtue of going live. And you talked a little bit as well, Anita, about visualizing and that rehearsal. Tell us a little bit more about visualization, because I know a lot of people hooked onto this today would be interested in the whole thing about visualizing our goals ahead of time.
Well, this is the interesting thing, and I do use visualizations in workshops. And the reason being is that you can increase up to double your chances of success by visualizing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the more you do it, the better it is. What I don't like is, and I'm sure that a lot of people have heard this, is, when you imagine something, your brain and body reacts exactly the same way. And the thing is, it doesn't.
Right.
It really doesn't. And I think people get disappointed when they think, well, if I visualize it, how come it's not working?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then they don't bother anymore.
So the visualization is important, but then putting practically one step in front of the other is the thing that produces the goal, but the visualization gives us the motivation, the serotonin hit, presumably, to get that goal.
Yeah, but it also fires other areas of the brain because they're all connected. So when you visualize something, it's like rehearsing. It's like you're stepping into the person you want to be.
Okay, so you're visualizing the future, right? Okay.
Yeah.
How would we do that? What's a practical way of doing that, Anita, so that we can practice that ourselves? How would you encourage us to go about that visualization piece?
Oh, well, really, you want to be somewhere quiet.
Right.
So close your eyes and look into the future of where you want to be. If it's a goal, then you can plan it in your mind. Go to the end and then work your way back. But also what I would include is, who do you want to be at the end of it? Don't just think about the result. How will I have to change to get there? Am I the person who gets over hurdles? Am I the person who, even if I'm frustrated when I'm learning something, I'm going to do it anyway? Feel the fear and do it anyway.
I love the way you've done that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. I love the way you've talked about, look, it's not just about the result. It's not just about the goal. More importantly, even more better, folks, is to think about who will I be becoming? Who is the person I will be at the end of this? More importantly, what, and some of that we only get in hindsight, right? Presumably. So, life is one of those things that we want to know the future, but, we can only really live by moving forward, but it's hindsight that gives us the validation of what we've done. So I'm wondering with another part of, so we've talked about visualization, another piece is that once that goal is achieved is then to review what you've done. So you can look at the hindsight. So you're both looking forwards to visualize once you've got it and you've become the person who you thought you would be, is then to look back and say, well, what else did I get? Because you can bet your bottom dollar you'll have learned other things, right?
No, absolutely. And that's why, spot on there. It's to review, to look back on it's not just what we've achieved as sort of tangible result, but it's who we've become. And look at that. And I, if you're finding it hard to look into the future, look back
what
the
you've done
backup
so
of
far.
the team.
There you go,
Yeah.
folks. And I think that's really important. Part of that whole growth mindset is also to see, who was I last year or 5 years ago compared to where I am today, or 3 years ago, whatever you want to do. That hindsight, folks, is really important piece of validating how you've grown and developed along the way through the goals that you've tried to achieve. It's not just what you've achieved, but who you've become, as Anita said. Anita, that's lovely. And look, we're coming to the...
One more thing.
Yeah,
one more
please.
thing.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's quick.
No, you're all right.
Yeah, because one of the sayings behind growth mindset is to reward the process and not the result.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Reward the process and not the result. And just a reminder about what you said earlier. Kieran says, love the reminder about Slack, building Slack time. A great day will be a great day, but even an all right day with a couple of things not going your way can still be a great day, because actually we've built some Slack in, things go wrong, but we've built some Slack in to help us with that. And yeah, love that. Okay. And Anita, talk us a little bit about the stuff that you do. What's the program you're launching? Talk about the community thing that you're building. What's launching for you shortly? What's this 5-day workshop that you are developing, Anita? So we've got some idea of what you do and how we can buy into that ourselves.
Well, first of all, let me say that we're relaunching this because it was going to be, one of these bespoke things.
Yeah.
But anyone knows in the audience, when you do bespoke, you have to charge a high ticket price.
You do.
Whereas
yes.
if I do groups, I can absorb the cost and offer more. Hence, we're relaunching.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your program. What are you launching, Anita? And we've got about 3 minutes.
Okay, really quickly. So it's going to be a 5-session workshop training, and it's going through how to plan goals, the biology behind planning goals, what neural networks we're going to do, and plans of action, how we're going to do it. Then the next section is completely about motivation. So again, we've got the biology of motivation and all the tips and tools and tricks that we can use for that. The week 3 is the learning and memory, and I'll show you that actually the stress of learning helps us learn, but also how to look after our brain, because goals are supposed to be there to help us. We need to balance our lives, so that's that. Then I go through all the other tools like focus, visualization, etc., and growth mindset, of course. So that's quite a long one. And finally, I discuss willpower and how beliefs. Wow. So that's the course. Okay. But we're developing a community where people can jump on for free. Okay. But those who've paid for the course I will record the sessions clientless so they can revisit it, and they get a free membership for a year.
Okay, lovely. So there's a membership to the community. Yeah.
Yeah, on top of that, we meet up once a month for any questions and answers. But what I would encourage people to do is if they join, help each other, because that's how you know you've learned something. I'll be jumping on there now and again, and we'll be having events and things like that. So all of that, so rather than £500 per person bespoke, £97
there you
for
go,
the course.
£97. And what's it called? What's the course called?
Do you know we still haven't decided?
So you're waiting for the title, yeah. Okay, so we need a name. So maybe we can help you with that. So you've got a 5-day course. It's about goals, the biology of goals, planning. I'm just looking at the summary now. Plans of work, looking at motivation, how learning and memory works, how we get balance. Tools to help you along the way, and then looking at willpower and beliefs and all that lot for £97 in your community course. And it's all about I to the power of we, which is something that we promote a lot on this show. And Phil Heritage says, I'm a former kickboxer and I use visualization to help mentally change my persona as part of my pre-fight preparation. There you go. So hello, Phil. And we'll be talking again about Phil in a moment. So thank you, Anita, and thank you for being a fantastic guest on our show. And I'm just going to try and give you a round of applause.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, we're just round of applause you, but by all means. Go for it.
Yeah, we're tweaking the website at the moment, so the call booking system doesn't quite align. So if you're interested in finding out more about the course, just DM me, email me, whatever, and we can chat over Zoom.
That's fine. So your website's been developed at the moment. That launches in mid-June, I understand. So not far away at all. So fantastic. Okay, and I'm just going to bring in Sarah just for, just before I do that. Yeah, let's do that now. So Sarah, call to action for Leaders Live. Now that Fridge Guy's gone.
Now the Fridge Guy's gone. We're obviously pleased to be back.
Yeah, we are.
It needs to, we need to grow this. So what one person can you invite to listen next week? So let's try and expand who we reach, because the content we've got is fantastic. There's nothing not to like. It's free of charge.
There you go.
We put a lot of effort into it. We would love to get more people involved. So which one person can you invite to listen along with you next week?
There you go.
Or if you can't listen live, there's always the podcast.
And the replay.
And just a reminder that if anybody feels very philanthropic and thinks, do you know what, I love what they do, or I know somebody that would love this and would like to help sponsor the costs on a monthly basis, we would love to talk to you.
So we would. Yes.
Get
please.
in touch.
Yeah, we're looking for a new sponsor as well. So brilliant. And Steve Whittle says, great live. Thank you, Anita. Brilliant. Now the goose for next week. Thanks, Sarah. The goose for next week, folks. We've just had Phil's comment about kickboxing here. We've got Phil Heritage next week, sales automation specialist. Oh, we've got such a treat next week. We're going to be unlocking sales using the power of AI automation. Oh, I think that's going to be. No, that's the wrong one. There it is. And even a ooh. So that's next week, folks. We can't wait for that. And we're gonna wave goodbye now to because the show's over and we're just over the hour. So Anita, thank you very much for being part of our show today. I'm just trying to bring up Anita's.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much. We're going to close out now with our outro. Thank you very much for being part of the show with us again and our relaunch after moving house. So we are so excited and we can't wait for next week, Tuesday the 11th with Phil Heritage. Cheers for now. Thanks, Anita, again. Cheers, everybody. We're going to wave goodbye to you now. Thank you. Cheers, everybody. Have a great week ahead of you. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again. See you again next week, folks, for another awesome, groovy show. There we go. Fantastic. Bye for now. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.